Please. This time I'd like to call the meeting to order. Welcome to the April 13th meeting of the Franklin Historic Zoning Commission. Our first item here on the agenda is for citizen comment. This is open for citizens to be heard on any issue or concern. If you'd like to speak on a specific agenda item, please wait until the citizen comment period for that item. For all citizen comments, please fill out a speaker card and hand it to the staff. The speaker cards are over here. Are they still over here on this round table? I have several already. Come up to the microphone, state your name and address. Try to limit your comment to 2 minutes. And I've promised that I will keep people to their 2 minutes. So if I tell you to stop, it's nothing personal. It's just we have some rules. Okay. Are there any citizens who want to comment on anything other than an agenda item? Okay, I see none. So let's go to item number 1 here, which is the minutes from last month. At this time, I'd entertain a motion to approve the March 9th, 2026 minutes.
Move to approve, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Brian. Okay, thank you. Angela. Any comments? Okay, hearing none, let's vote. All those in favor of the motion to approve the March 9th, 2026 minutes, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Those are approved. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to the applications for this evening's agenda. Item number 2 is consideration of a principal building alterations window replacement at 223 Franklin Road. Hank Gardner is the applicant. If Mr. Gardner or the representative wants to come up to the podium here, and we're going to hear from Emily first, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The property located at 223 Franklin Road is located in the Franklin Road Historic District. The site features a circa 1939 frame residential building with bungalow characteristics. A retroactive request for the replacement of the windows on the historic building was denied during the January Historic Zoning Commission meeting due to the materiality of the windows. The proposal includes a request for the replacement of the same 10 windows on the historic building. The proposed replacement window design and materials are appropriate per the guidelines, and therefore staff recommends approval of the replacement windows with conditions. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Gardner, welcome back.
Thank you very much.
If you want to give us a brief overview.
We went through the committee's recommendations, and we actually like the 6/6. And forgive me if I'm wrong as far as the numbers. I'm trying to use y'all's terms on it. For the front area, after looking at a couple of the homes in the area and along in Miles Manor area, they had the 3/3 and then 0 on the bottom. We didn't really particularly like that. We kind of like the 6/6, give the more grid pane on the front of it. We'd go with any recommendation that the board or the committee desires.
Okay, thank you very much. If you'll have a seat, please. Are there any citizens on this particular item want to comment? Okay, we have a bigger crowd than normal, so I'm just giving it some time. All right, let's go to the commission for a motion, please.
I would move to approve with staff comments.
Okay,
Second.
thank you, Bob, Mary. Okay, we have a motion on the floor for approval with staff conditions. Is there any discussion?
I just appreciate so much the property owner's willingness to rethink and work with us.
Okay. Anybody else? Angela?
I wanted to say that too. And I also wanted to say, this is such a great example of how working with historic zoning enhances the character of this building. I love the spacers between the windows. I love the 6/6. And I really appreciate the willingness of the homeowner to work with the guidelines and to be so responsive to the committee. That's commendable.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, let's vote. We have a motion for approval with staff conditions for the window replacements at 223 Franklin Road. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much, Mr. Gardner.
Thank you all so very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, item number 3, consideration of principal building alterations, roof materials at 121 Miles Manor Court. Scott and Michelle Cash, if you all want to come up, and we will hear from Emily first. Got another note card.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The property located at 121 Miles Manor Court is located in the Franklin Road Historic District. The site features a circa 1930 Tudor Revival influenced building which had an addition and alterations completed in the early 2000s. The proposal includes a new request for the installation of an EPDM roofing on a section of the roof and a retroactive request of the replacement of the asphalt shingle roof with a cedar shake roof based on additional information and research presented at the Design Review Committee meeting last month. For the section of the EPDM roofing, a section of roofing is proposed to utilize this material on the rear portion of a non-historic addition to the building that was previously approved to be altered. The use of EPDM roofing materials is appropriate to accommodate low slopes to ensure proper runoff and drainage for the long-term preservation of the building. Moving to the cedar shingle request. The cedar shingle roof was installed on the historic building and its additions, replacing the existing asphalt shingles without a certificate of appropriateness. Extensive research has been conducted to understand the building's history, its roofing materials, and additional information for review in light of the request has been provided. The guidelines recommend the following for historic residential buildings. One should preserve historic roof forms and materials, and if localized damage occurs, replace the damaged materials only. If partial or wholesale replacement is needed, use the materials whose composition and appearance match the historic materials. While the use of wood roofing material may be appropriate for an addition or new construction if it complements the architectural style of the building, the replacement of the asphalt shingle roofing on the historic building is not appropriate without conclusive documentation of the material being historically present on the building. The guidelines recommend preserving and maintaining the asphalt shingle roofing material that is known to have been previously on the building. Without the conclusive documentation of the material historically on the building, the use of cedar shingle roofing is not appropriate. Therefore, staff recommends denial of the retroactive request for cedar shingle roofing based on the guidelines, and therefore staff recommends approval of the EPDM roofing material with conditions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Cash or Mrs. Cash, whoever wants to speak first.
Michelle's going to speak first, but I have some information that we found last week. Can I just pass these?
We can't pass stuff around at the
Okay.
meeting because it has to be published ahead of time.
Okay.
It's just a
I'll read
state law stuff that I get in trouble for.
it.
And then Bill yells at me, and then I got to take it out on my kids. And
We don't want that.
all right. Yeah. Go
Well,
ahead.
thank you again for meeting with us and considering this retroactive COA for the roof. As you know, we have lived at Miles Manor Court for 16 years. We've been raising our children, working jobs, volunteering, participating in the story of Franklin. I think about all those photos I look at and I wonder, what is it going to be like in 50, 100 years when we're looking at these, and are we in them? And I don't know, it's kind of fun to be a part of a historic town. So we've always been rule followers. We're paying all our bills. We've paid tens of thousands of dollars in property taxes. And we thought that we were following the rules in getting approval for this historic renovation. In our ignorance, we picked this historic product that was in the guidelines as appropriate, but completely misunderstood that we needed to get new approval for the material change. And for that, we continue to beg your forgiveness for that and do not support anyone doing that. I understand that this is a complex situation, But we believe that the evidence that we've put in this packet and what we've set before you points to Cedar Shake being historically appropriate to this property, to this unique property. I understand there's all different properties in Franklin, and so we're specifically looking at this and not trying to set a precedent for other properties. And I know Scott's going to mention that more. But just to be clear, that we will be advocates of never coming for retroactive. We will always ask permission. This has caused our family great heartache and hard times, and I know that my children would love to never hear the word roof ever again. So yeah, we will be your advocates out in the city. So we're asking you tonight to vote tonight based on the spirit of the guidelines, and on the HDC website, it states that the HDC reviews plans to see whether the requested changes would damage the historic value of the property or district. And so we're asking you to look at our home and ask, is it damaging the historic value of Franklin, or does it add to it? As we've spoken to our neighbors, Dr. Van West, James Dunn of Vintage Millworks, visitors who have driven by and just got out of their car, members of the community, there's been 100% support from everyone. Not one person has said that they felt that this was a non-historic addition to our property. If it's okay with y'all, everyone who's here in support of this being historically accurate, or you're supporting this roof, would you mind raising your hands? So we're just grateful to y'all for being here and supporting us, and yeah, just love for you to take that, the quote of what the HCC does, and vote according to whether you think that this adds value to Franklin being a great historic town. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
We greatly respect you guys. I think this is my 15th DRC or HDC meeting over the last several years, and I don't take lightly that you've given us a lot of your time, so we're thankful for that. And this has been so hard. I'm super nervous because this impacts our family more than any financial decision we've ever made. And I mean, this has been a huge deal, and we have spent. I've spent 300 hours on this in the last 4 months, and so I hope that the cover letter that we submitted, and we had some revisions to that between the DRC meeting and today. So I hope that explains kind of a bit of where we are, and I'm going to try not to look. I just want to make sure I cover my bullet points well, because they're important, and they've taken a lot of effort to get. So, we believe that there is great evidence that there's a high probability that this house had a cedar roof. We have 2 independent roofing professionals who have assessed the situation, one of whom is here tonight, and we'll speak in a bit, and found, nail pattern, and Paul can talk about that, but he found nail patterns and evidence in the attic. And we have aerial photography that is, we believe to be abundantly clear, at least in this aerial photography, and I graded, it's from 1950, so the resolution is not great, but it most certainly shows that our house has a significantly lighter colored roof than all of the homes around it. And at that time, from my research, they did not make asphalt shingles that were significantly lighter. It was the product line was much more limited at that time. We really believe that we've, brought the evidence that cedar wasn't a historically appropriate material during the time period during which our home was built. Several things, point to that. We have articles and trade documentation from that period that show that cedar was widespread across this region and the U.S. We've submitted pictures of Franklin homes that have cedar roofs that were built during this same period. I think I've explained it. Unfortunately, we have looked far and wide, but we're informed by multiple people that it's highly unlikely that a ground level high-res photograph of our home would exist from that period, based on our home not being a substantial home in the community. I talked last week to Dr. Carol Van West, who is the Tennessee State historian, and he was appointed by the governor, but he was appointed by Governor Haslam, but continues under Governor Lee. And he's the director of the Center for Historic Preservation at MTSU. He's widely recognized for his expertise in historic preservation, American architectural history, American material cultural studies, and state and local history. And in addition to his broader expertise, in Tennessee Historic Preservation, his role in preparing and submitting the 2005 National Register of Historic Places registration for Harlansdale Farm gave him a unique perspective on the area surrounding our neighborhood. And I informed Dr. Van West to the very best of my ability with complete objectivity of the situation with our roof. In response to my questions, he said, and I asked for his permission to read this quote, he said, "The cedar roof does not distract from the building, nor would it make it a non-contributing building to the National Register." We also believe that there is irrefutable evidence that architectural shingles did not exist during the time period during which this home was built. Those architectural shingles, if you go to the websites of roofing companies like CertainTeed, who's one of the major manufacturers in the country, they say on their website, architectural shingles were designed to mimic the shadow lines and materials of cedar shake and slate. And those shingles did not come about until the 1970s, was the very beginning of their advent, and then weren't really widely adopted until the 90s and 2000s. And so the house, the roof that is being referenced to in our house was put there in 2007, and it was architectural shingles. And that's an anachronistic juxtaposition to put, those are not historic materials. They are made of a material that existed during the same time, but they are not the same as the 3-tab shingles that would have been on this house when it was built. And that's where it gets, a bit complex for us, because in addition to the evidence that we have that we believe shows the high probability of cedar, if you look at the guidelines, and I've read them a lot at this point and really spent a lot of time reading them and the documents from which they were derived, there is nowhere in the guidelines the term historic is defined. There's a glossary at the end of the guidelines that defines all these different terms within the guidelines, but the term historic is never defined. And so the concept that historic, and it also says for terms that are not defined, look to the American English definition in the American English dictionaries for those terms. The term historic does not, there's a diametric opposition in many ways to the term historic with the term current. And it is, there's nowhere in the guidelines that says what is historic is what is there today. It just does not say that. That's really an interpretation of the guidelines. It's not explicitly written anywhere in there. Like I said, I've read it multiple times. And in our conversations with city officials and staff members, there's a real understanding that there's a need for some clarity within the guidelines so that there is something that homeowners can put their hands on and really know exactly what that's and what they say. And we truly have had multiple city representatives say that such, and also so much to say that, hey, we are currently refining these things to be more clear. And so we would just ask that in this, if that's true, if it's a bit gray, if the term historic is not defined, if the term historic is never related to current, and that cedar, wood, slate, all those are mentioned as historically appropriate materials, it would stand to reason, based on the heart of the guidelines, that this is an historically appropriate material for this home, and we believe that emphatically. I'd love to just kind of read these last two things, and then I'll be finished, but, and I've sort of alluded to this already, but the guidelines don't define historic as the current material. That is an interpretation. What they consistently emphasize is using historically appropriate materials. Cedar shake is historically appropriate for this house and era, and we've provided multiple forms of supporting evidence. At minimum, this is a gray area, and in those cases, the commission has discretion. We're asking you to apply that discretion here tonight. We respectfully ask that you consider all of the submitted evidence, as well as the historic context, and base your decision on our individual and unique property. This is not a matter of precedent. Approving a COA for this cedar shake roof does not constitute blanket approval for cedar roofs for any home in the HBO. As Michelle said, we would go to any person on your behalf and wave our hands and say, it is, like, make sure you understand every single nuance so that when you do anything to your home, you can say with confidence, hey, we had approval to do this, because the heartache and time and money that this has cost our family has just, I can't describe it. So we would be your greatest advocates, as Michelle said. Each property in the historic overlay has its own unique identity and story, which is what makes this such a special community. As the essence of the guidelines implies, each building deserves to be evaluated on a case-by-case basis. So we want to be conscious of your time. We have some different folks who we've asked to be here tonight to speak on our behalf. And thank you so much for listening. And again, I've taken a lot of your time over the last month, so we're grateful.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you for those comments. I'm going to ask, are there any citizens who wish to comment on the application? And I have a list here. So I'll start with, because they're city aldermen, let's start with Mr. Matt Brown.
Good evening, everybody.
evening.
Matt Brown, 821 Walden Drive, Franklin Alderman of Ward 2, of which Miles Manor sits in my ward. Thank you all for your service to our city. I don't address this commission very often, and I do appreciate for all that you do to keep our city historic. I think, the beautiful thing about boards and commissions is that we interpret our guidelines, we interpret the ordinances, and much like a conversation I just had about 15 minutes ago, we also have an opportunity to do right by our community and do right by individuals. There is the intent of the guidelines, and then there's also the spirit in which people engage them. This is a family who entered into this process. They didn't thumb their nose at it. There are plenty of people who just totally ignore it and choose not to do it. They get caught, and they have to come in here and have to answer to it. This is a family that entered into the process. They wanted to embrace and recognize where they live and honor not only the home, but the neighborhood and their neighbors around them. They thought they were doing the right thing. They believed that the roof they were putting on was going to be appropriate. Unbeknownst to them, they went too far, and they put a roof on that they didn't realize they also needed to include that in what they were doing. But in the end, they put a roof on that, by all accounts, is probably very much appropriate, certainly probably more historic than the shingles that were there, even if we can't necessarily point to the fact that they were there. And certainly by all accounts, by those people who I think you all probably respect and who I respect probably assume that they were there. Or at least if they weren't there, don't take away from the fact that they're there. This family has endured incredible hardship. To take that roof off, I can't even begin to explain to you the financial hardship of that family. And I can't imagine that we as a city, just at the end of the day, I can't imagine a city we would actually ask a family to endure that kind of a hardship, to take off a roof that, at the end of the day, isn't hurting the neighborhood, it isn't hurting our historic nature, and it isn't hurting the neighbors at all. In fact, I think it's amazing what they've done to this house, and my biggest fear is that if we do, we're going to really prevent people from wanting to invest in saving these wonderful historic homes. The more that we do this, the least likely we're going to have people saying, yeah, I'm willing to step in there and take a shot at putting all my money and resources and time into saving these homes. So I'd ask for you to vote in favor of these families, and let's let them keep that roof. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Alderman Brown. Alderman Baggett.
Hello, I like Alderman Brown, don't like to frequent your commission either. First of all, trust this commission wholeheartedly. I think one important thing to know is that, and you wouldn't know this, but the number of calls that we get from residents who live in the historic district, maybe upset about this, that, or the other, that we don't do this for, is significant. I would say just last week, there was one, I said, well, stop what you're doing right now. Don't spend any more money. And you need to go through the process and go get this rectified. This situation is a bit different, and it piqued my interest for a couple of reasons. One is, because this is a historic material outlined in the guidelines as something that is allowable. If this had been they have the faux cedar shake now that's like plastic or that exists. If they had put that on here, I would not be here tonight. It is not an approved material. It is not historically appropriate. It would degrade the value of the historic district. That's not what happened here. The guidelines say to restore, make sure you're preserving and restoring the historic materials. The reality is, this is what makes this hard. no one knows what the original roof on this building was. We have some evidence that's pretty good, but no one here knows. It definitely wasn't the roof that was taken off of any shape, kind, or similarity, other than possibly there was asphalt involved. And so in that case, I think this commission should take a look at not only the preferences of your own preferences on what you think possibly it would look good, but what's historically appropriate for the type structure, and make a determination based on that. Again, you all are fantastic. You provide a wonderful service community. I don't expect myself to be back here anytime soon because of the great work you do, but this is one of those situations I would ask for your consideration on allowing the request. Thank you.
Thank you. I think this is Frankie Elliott, Elcott? Elliott.
Yep, hey everybody. First of all, I want to thank the Historic Zoning Commission for the work you do. My name is Frankie Elliott. I live at 103 Mayberry Court. My wife and I have lived there for 11 years, and we look out our front door and we see the east and south side of the Cash home. So I have a vested interest in whatever gets approved for the roofing material, because I look at it every day. But we support the Cashes in their effort here. They painstakingly have gone to great lengths to restore this home to its historic significance, and we ask that you would approve their application for COA. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Paul Anderson.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Paul Anderson. I am a resident, 30-year resident of Franklin. My wife is a fourth-generation Franklinite, what we call a unicorn in 2026. 4392 Columbia Pike. I am a senior project manager for quality roofing, restoration, and construction out of Mount Juliet. I routinely do inspections for Ed Underwood, who runs the State Farm office in downtown Franklin. He introduced me to Mr. Cash, whom I met on March 3rd. I inspected the roof, and based on my inspections, cedar shake shingles were very likely installed previously on this home. Here's why. Larger nail holes. The holes appear slightly larger than what standard asphalt shingle roofing nails typically leave. Cedar shakes usually require longer nails, often 1 3/4 inch to 2.5 inches, because the material is much thicker than an asphalt shingle. Number 2, irregular vertical spacing. Cedar shakes are installed in staggered courses with more vertical exposure variations. The holes don't appear in tight, evenly spaced horizontal lines like you typically see with a 3-tab or an architectural shingle. Number 3, fewer nail lines per exposure. Asphalt shingles create a very consistent nail pattern every 5 to 6 inches vertically. Cedar shakes usually have nails placed higher up on each shake and less uniformly aligned across the deck. The board decking is visible. This example in the picture is a plank decking, and it's not plywood or OSB. Cedar shake roofs were commonly installed over spaced or solid board decking such as this. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you. Gary Grooms.
I'm Gary Grooms. My wife and I live at 115 Miles Manor Court. If the picture of the house was up there, we'd be just to the left of that. We live at the intersection of Miles Manor Court and Mayberry Lane. It's actually my wife's childhood home, the home that she grew up in. So we know a little bit about the history, even though I can't speak to whether there were ever cedar shake shingles on the home or not. We're in favor of this application and would urge its approval. As I said, it's my wife's childhood home, and we bought it from her mother years ago. About that same time that Ed Underwood bought this house and was doing a big renovation. In fact, I just remembered a moment ago, he at one point got an order of demolition. Mm-hmm. The house was almost torn down. And I think he didn't act on that soon enough, and it expired. So instead of tearing it down, he did an extensive renovation and addition that dramatically improved the appearance of the home, and I think probably my property value as well. The Cashes are doing a major renovation to this home. It has taken a little longer than we would like, but we think it's a beautiful home. We think it will improve the appearance of the neighborhood and improve my property values as well. And aside from that, they're just great folks, and we want them to move back to the neighborhood. So we urge approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Adam Seeger. Good evening.
Thank you all. My name's Adam Sager. I live at 3035 Heartland Lane in Franklin. I do work for a company, Dale and Associates, that does a lot of work in Franklin, so I have appeared before other boards and things like that. But tonight, I'm just here on behalf of my friends. Just one thing on the side to mention, my dad was a builder. I did roof for many years. I actually worked in specialty roofing, and what he was saying about cedar shake versus an asphalt roof is true. I can attest to that the patterns are different whenever you have an asphalt roof versus a cedar shake roof. I've had to put those in myself. But my intent is not to revisit all of the data, but simply to speak on the logic of how this situation is being considered. I was asked to kind of look at this. I went back and reviewed the DRC meeting and kind of listened to what everybody had to say. And I just want to say I understand. I only mentioned that I appear before other boards because I do understand what it's like, have precedent and lots of different things to consider that maybe not everybody understands. But the commission has also acknowledged that the guidelines are not perfect. That was admitted by you all because you said that's one of the reasons why this body exists, is to help apply judgment in those gray areas. And I heard you all say that, and it just got me thinking. It seems like this case has some tension in how it was being applied in this way. If the guidelines are inherently flexible, then it just becomes difficult to apply them in a strictly rigid way, particularly when this situation has a material in question that is historically appropriate and potentially original. And similarly, if precedent is defined only by maintaining what is most recently existed, then the standard becomes tied only to prior decisions made by others, regardless of whether these materials were historically accurate or appropriate. So it seems that approach can unintentionally elevate the more recent, lower quality, less authentic materials over ones that are more consistent with the home's original character or historic appropriateness. And I know what that buzzer means.
I'll give you a couple more seconds if you have
All right,
one last
so
thought.
I have one last question, and then I'm done.
Okay.
Just in that gray area, with the material that is historically appropriate to the home style, is it more consistent with the spirit of preservation to simply replicate what was already there, or to allow a more authentic, better quality material that may better reflect the home's historical character? And I believe this commission has the ability to make that distinction thoughtfully, and I'd ask for y'all to allow the cedar shake roof to remain. So, thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Sager. All right, anyone else? Those are all my cards. You have one more? We've got one more person. You'll have to identify yourself. All right, give us your name and
My
address,
name
please.
is Bria Valderrama. My husband and I moved to Franklin 10 years ago, and we live in Spring Hill now, but I have no experience with roofing at all. I am just a dear friend of the Cashes, and but I was in real estate for years, so I like reading all the fine print and everything. But I just want to say the Cash family is one of the most generous families I have ever met, and I think everybody here could probably say the same thing. They're so unique because every home that they've had, they create that home as a place of refreshment and hospitality. They have 5 kiddos, and they've trained their kids. It's incredible to be the most hospitable people on the planet. Even their 9-year-olds, I show up to their home, and they're asking, Miss Bria, can I get you something? They're holding my 2-year-old. And when we show up to their home, my family is refreshed. And I've seen that time and time again for other families. They're refreshed, and because of the Cash's hospitality and generosity. And I just think of the amount of people in that beautiful home, that are going to be able to step in to the Cash's generosity and be blessed. And there's a verse in the Bible that says, a generous man will prosper. Those who refresh others will themselves be refreshed. And so I'm just asking, out of the kindness of your hearts, that you would allow for them to be refreshed. And not take on this big financial burden that is going to take away from future hospitality that they'll be able to pour out onto other citizens of Franklin. So thank you so much for considering that.
Thank you. All right, anyone else? All right, seeing no more. Yes, ma'am, come on. State your name, please.
Kathy Mitchell, and
Kathy.
I am a designer and friend, and lived in the area for almost 24 years. My husband's also a designer and from this area, and I just, as their Cash's friend, and I just would ask that you would vote in favor of the roof. That I just feel like they've shown a lot of evidence that it's in their favor to keep it. So, anyways, just want to say.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, last call. We have one more right over here. Come over. Tell us your name, please.
Sure. My name is Rob McKelvey, 2012 Over Brenz Lane in Franklin. Also a licensed architect in the state of Tennessee. Yeah, I just, based on the evidence that I've seen and I've heard, I also would just ask that you would vote in favor of this, their situation. And I feel like when you really come down to the brass tacks of it, if an architectural shingle that looks like wood shake is acceptable, I just find it hard to find that an actual wood shake would not be acceptable in this situation. Especially when you just look at the integrity of an original historic material like a wood shake. Anyway, I just wanted to say thank you for your time, and that pray that you would vote in favor of them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Have one more hand. Come on up.
Hey, Scott Caldwell. Live at 601 Cornelia Court in Franklin. Friends of the Cashes, don't know much about roofing, but I knew that there was a cedar shake roof going on and that there was a historical question. And I just started driving around and I just saw cedar shake after cedar shake after cedar shake after cedar shake. And I didn't put a number to it. I would imagine this commission knows that number, but it was significant enough, and I know there are statutes, but I value the historic nature of Franklin, and it seems visually that this embodies the historic nature of Franklin in numerous places. And I would just ask that the committee consider that. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Caldwell. Anyone else? I better speak now before they jump up. All right. All right, thank you all for those comments. Let's go to the commission for a motion, please.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the EDP of roofing as well as the cedar shake.
And I'll second that.
Okay, and will you tell us going with the cedar shakes against staff recommendation? Just notate that for us, please.
Yeah, well, the first thing I go back to is the guidelines. And our guidelines do state that for roofing material, that wood is an approved material. It's not an exception to the guideline. It is an approved material. So I look at that, and then I realize that in the comments, we have the word conclusive documentation. And I think also, to try to prove that the asphalt roof might have been original is also hard to prove with conclusive documentation. So then I go back to, if you have extra time, you can go back and read the old newspapers from the Review Appeal from the 1920s and 30s. And almost weekly, there's an ad in there from Southall Brothers advertising cedar shakes from California that they're bringing in by the trainload. And I know they're putting them on roofs. That's what they're doing. So we don't have conclusive documentation about what was there before. And when we don't have that documentation, I'm not a roofer, I'm not an expert on roofs, then we have to rely on people who are experts. And we've had at least 2 experts from very reputable roofing companies tell us there's a high probability that a cedar shake roof either existed or could have existed. And, weighing all of that evidence, I just can't see removing a roof that has historic material and putting back asphalt or something else. And just for a last comment or thought, If someone came to our board and they had vinyl siding on their historic home, and they said, we want to put wood siding, I don't think there's any board member who would say, no, you have to stick with vinyl, because that was what was on your home currently. So that is why I do support the cedar shake roof. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. All right. Mary, did you have something?
I do.
Okay.
I don't think we'd ever tell anybody that had vinyl covering wood that they couldn't repair and replace the wood. I think that would go against our guidelines. I think the quandary, and we've got a crowd in the room, and we don't have that many chances to tell this many people about historic zoning in Franklin, but the process was not followed, and that is what brings us to today. And we have to depend on everybody that lives in the historic overlay districts, and this family has done it many times. They've come many times about projects they were working on and getting proper approval. They just didn't come this time. I'm going to support going ahead and approving it after the fact, but it doesn't really take away from the style house, so I will vote to approve it. But I just want to say, we get in a moment like today when the process and the rules aren't followed. And I would like for everybody to know that. This particular house, someone said it was going to be torn down. It was a huge fight. I was in that fight. We did get historic zoning and were able to have this house standing. Part of that particular fight was two of the people in the neighborhood that owned properties were able to give away $50 gift certificates to Red Pony at the time if you would come be against historic zoning. I would argue, having been one of the people that have fought so hard for historic zoning, we wouldn't have the Franklin that everybody says they love without it. And we wouldn't be able to have the historic zoning without people abiding by the guidelines. So there's young people here. It always works to play by the rules. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else?
Mr. Chair.
Yes,
I was
ma'am.
just gonna
Madeline?
say, part of why I feel obligated to approve this is in previous discussions, we've talked about bringing back, in just like the past few discussions, bringing back more evidence that Cedar may have been there previously. So to what Brian was saying, we've had two experts tonight that have attested to that there could have very likely been cedar shake. And to what he was saying, that at the period of the home, it's just very hard to find that evidence for any of us. So that's why I feel good about approving this.
Sure. Okay. Thank you. Anybody else? Bob?
Well,
Angela?
For me, the statement from Dr. Carol Van West is compelling, that it would be appropriate for this house. And I don't think that's really the issue for me, is I think it's an attractive roof. It's a beautiful material. Look, it enhances the cottage vibe of this house, but it was the process that wasn't followed correctly. And the only way this works in Franklin is if everyone buys in to follow the process and to get in front of asking for permission rather than, a sin of commission or commission instead of omission. But that being said, I would be in favor of approving it tonight. It still sticks that there's a precedent-setting action being taken that could bite us. So, but I will support it tonight.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody on this side? No? Yeah, it's funny, and I suspect I may not be the only one, but I've kind of agree with everything everybody said.
Yeah.
And that's what's the hard part about all this is The process probably wasn't followed. We know that. That's easily said and understood. To Brian's point, it's like, well, this is something that could have been there, and there's evidence of that. They provided lots of evidence. And I'm not convinced that if you had come and went through the process, that we would have said yes to a cedar shake roof, because we would have went, well, if it's had an asphalt roof, then that's what you need to stick with. And we've done that, I don't know how many times over. We've had people ask, and we've said no to other things on houses too, besides roofs. But because we're here and this is the situation we're in, I think because it is an appropriate material for this house, I understand and agree that, this is appropriate. And it is a more historically accurate material for the period of the house than architectural profile modern shingles, right? Again, these are all, facts, but I wish the process would have been different. So, all right. Anything else last minute before we vote? Okay, the motion on the floor is for approval of the EPDM roof and the cedar shake roof retroactively. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay, the ayes have it.
Please, please, don't clap, please.
All right. Let's go to item number 4. Give everybody a second to clear out here.
The clapping. I have a, well, those don't, the ones we've approved, they've actually shown the shingles. I don't know.
All right, let's get ready to move on to item number 4 here.
I don't, yeah, it's.
This is consideration of front yard fencing at 1005 Evans Street. Natalie, I don't know how to say this.
Natalie, I'm Brian.
All right, Brian
I'm her
Snyder.
brother.
Okay, Brian, hang on. Let's hear from Emily first, and then we'll give you a chance to talk here. I queue people up so that we save seconds. Go ahead, Emily.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The property located at 1005 Evans Street is located in the Lewisburg Avenue Historic District. The site features a circa 2010 frame residential building that features Gothic Revival influences. The proposal includes a request for the construction of a wood picket fence in the front yard of the property. The proposed fencing is appropriate, and therefore staff recommends approval of the front yard fencing with conditions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Now it's your turn, Mr. Snyder.
So what do y'all need?
You just give us whatever
She just
overview.
wants to build a fence around to keep her puppies in. That's it.
Okay,
It's
nothing to
super
add from
simple.
what staff had?
She just wants to make sure her puppies can go out front. That's it.
Okay, all right, if you'll grab a seat, we may have questions for you later, we'll let you know. Emily, go ahead.
We have received one submitted public comment, and so it has been uploaded to the agenda packet this morning.
Okay, thank you. All right, are there any citizens who wish to comment on this application? And I do have, it looks like, one comment card. Is there anybody else besides Mr. Bauman? Boffman. Carl, come on up.
Thank you. My name is Carl Bossman, 1001 Evans Street. We are the property immediately to the north of the applicant's property. So my comments relate to the north boundary of the applicant's fence proposal. There is a Japanese maple that was planted by the original home builder very close to our property line. Some of the foliage actually hangs into our yard. The mulch bed at the base of the tree is probably partially into our yard, into our boundary. But our request is that the fence enclose the the mulch and the tree itself as part of the original yard construction. So that's one item. Another is that our driveway is adjacent to the north boundary, and there is a ditch with a head wall. And above the head wall, we have a brick planter. Sometimes when there's heavy rain, there would be debris deposited on top of the landing at the base of our brick planter. And I need to get around the brick planter because there's a drop-off from the driveway side. So I have to go all the way around to be able to clear the debris off of the landing at the base of the brick planter. So I'm requesting full access around that brick planter. And then the third item, again, very close to the property line, but I think entirely within our property, very close to the street, is an AT&T pull box. And so I think that if the fence enclosure excludes that pull box, we'll be okay. So those are my concerns.
Okay.
If it's possible, feasible, perhaps there could be a condition that would allow us to have access to the culvert landing so that we can clear the debris at the base of our brick planter. Be able to come around that brick planter and clear out the debris.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, any other citizens want to comment on this item? Okay, don't see it.
Respond to him.
No, your part's done.
He just needs to let me know what he needs done.
Yeah,
and we'll
yeah.
take care of it.
Well, that's a lot of that, unfortunately, is not our department. So we'll discuss it here once we have a motion on the floor. But let's go to the commission here for a motion.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I motion to approve with staff's conditions.
Okay, Kathy, thank you.
I second.
Okay, Holly. Okay, Miss Kathy, would you like to speak first?
My one comment was to that very first image where it says the picket sections will be of equal distance between posts. Does the applicant have a method of showing us? I mean, it's 3 equal sections. That's my interpretation of that.
Make sure your mic is on.
It's
Okay.
The-
Yeah, I
the
think
3
there's.
divisions are all equal. but
Yeah,
this
the
image
middle one
shows-
looks thinner, but I think the intent, I think this was made with AI, yeah. So AI didn't get them spaced right, but the intent is that there be 3 equal panels so that swag and all the dimensions all be equal across.
Okay, good, thank you. I do feel that's the correct number because it reflects the spacing on the porch. So I would be in agreement with that.
Okay. Any other comments? Holly, anything? No? Anybody over here? No? Okay. All right, I kind of agree that the fence looks fine. We'll let the neighbors work out access and easements and all that's really not our purview. I think that the fence as designed and shown meets the guidelines, and that's what we review. So, okay, let's vote. All those in favor of approval with staff conditions, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. Thank you very much. Thank you. All right. Item number 5, consideration of building alterations, door replacement at 127 2nd Avenue North. Marla Albert. Miss Albert, if you'll come up, we'll hear from Emily first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The property located at 127 2nd Avenue North, 2nd Avenue South, sorry, is...
North. It is north.
Oh, it is north. So sorry, there was a typo.
It's right on here.
Yes. Is located in the downtown Franklin Historic District. The site features two commercial buildings. The building located at the back of the property is a circa 1960 concrete block building and is listed as non-contributing to the district. The proposal includes a request for the replacement of the double doors on the front facade of the building. The proposal is to replace the existing double metal doors with new double storefront style doors. The proposed alteration is appropriate, and therefore staff recommends approval of the door replacement with conditions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Albert, anything you'd like to add?
Pretty straightforward.
Okay. Okay, perfect.
I guess the impetus to this is that we want to increase the safety for exiting the building. So we've got to modify the doors in one way or another to allow push bars. And so if I'm going to replace a door for push bars, I'd like it to look better.
Okay. All right, thank you. If you'll grab a seat. All right, anyone from the community want to comment? All right, I think we've used our quota tonight. All right, let's go to the commission for a motion, please.
I'll make a motion to approve with staff conditions.
Second.
Okay. Angela, thank you. Madeline, thank you for the motion. Would you like to speak first?
I think it's pretty straightforward.
Okay.
No comments.
Agree, and makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything for anybody else? Yeah, I think we had approved the building in front that's kind of big brother to this building, and I think those are the doors on it, right, in the picture? Yeah, so
Oh, good.
like it's all in the family.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay. Any other comments? All right, motion on the floor is for approval with staff conditions. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. All opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much. All right, item number 6. Consideration of in-kind replacement of building materials at 800 Fair Street. Amanda McCreary is the applicant, and Emily is on full court press tonight. She's driving the computer and speaking. Bill, can't you help scroll for her? I feel bad for her. He's like, I can help. I'm just kidding. You're doing great. All right, Emily, please, with the staff recommendation.
Okay, so the property at 800 Fair Street is located within the Hinchyville National Register Historic District. The proposal includes the repair and in-kind replacement of areas on the building that have deteriorated. The scope of work includes the replacement of the siding on the sides of the front elevation dormer and installation of a dark metal flashing, replacement of the fascia boards and soffits as needed, replacement of the K-style OG gutters and round downspouts, and the repairs of siding where it is deteriorated. All are appropriate, and staff recommends approval of the application with conditions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. McCreary, welcome.
Hello, Amanda McCreary, Chisel Workshop. We added some additional information as requested at the last DRC meeting to the report, including we are going to salvage as much as the soffit as physically possible. If we do have any replacement, for instance, if any pieces in the front need to be replaced, we will remove the historic pieces from the back to the front and replace anything in the rear. Also added the neighborhood context as well for the gutters and some additional information that you guys had requested. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, anyone want to comment from the community? Okay, seeing none, let's go to the commission, please. Okay, Brian?
I'll second.
Madeline, thank you. Any discussion?
I'd just like to commend the applicant. I think preserving as much original material is a good historic preservation practice.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? All right, we have a motion on the floor for approval with staff conditions. Let's vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much. Item number 7, consideration of accessory structure alterations, garage door alterations at 321 3rd Avenue South. Lawrence Sullivan is the applicant. Mr. Sullivan, if you'd like to join us, let's hear from Emily again.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Property located at 321 3rd Avenue South is located accessory structure in order to convert the existing one bay into a two-bay garage configuration. So the request to replace the one-bay garage with a door with a two-bay garage door configuration. The existing CMU and new column between the garage doors are proposed to be clad in cementitious siding with a 4-inch reveal and trim corner detailing. The proposed alterations will increase the compatibility of the design of the structure with other historic accessory structures in the district by creating doors with similar proportions and materials that are more consistent with what is seen in the district. Therefore, staff recommends approval of the accessory structure alterations with conditions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Sullivan?
Yes, sir.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Anything you'd like to add, sir?
Just that wood is not going to be there. My AI said, when I said it's going to be wood instead of cinder block, that's what it meant. So.
They keep telling me I'm going to lose my job to AI, and I'm like, I don't think so. All right, thank you very much. All right, any citizens wish to comment? Okay, seeing none, let's go to the commission for a motion, please.
I move to approve with staff recommendation.
Okay, Bob, thank you. Angela, thank you. Any discussion?
The only thing I would say is that during DRC, I remember Bob mentioning that may having two garage, and it does look so much better.
It does.
And Lawrence did a good job.
Looks great.
Very good. Anything else? All right, we have a motion on the floor for approval with staff conditions. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you very much. Item number 8, consideration of new construction, signage, and site alterations for Williamson County EMS at 110 Aldersgate Way. John Gore is the applicant. And we'll hear from Emily first, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Property at 110 Aldersgate Way is located within the Franklin Road Historic District. The property is on the edge of the Historic Preservation Overlay and is considered to front the roundabout coming from Mack Hatcher Memorial Parkway. For the new building construction, the agrarian appearance of the horizontal cementitious siding on the proposed building appears to relate to the adjacent Daniel McMahon house and agricultural barn. The proposed placement and orientation, building form, height, materials, details and ornamentation, entrances, and gutters and downspouts generally meet the guidelines. Additionally, the detailing of the windows should have traditional casement and trim framing the windows to align with the guidelines. Further, the guidelines recommend that windows are to be in a traditional placement, so there should be a separation between the windows and the watercourse. For the signage, once it loads for us, there we go. The proposed sign aligns with the guidelines recommendation for post and panel signs, but it should utilize a matte finish. For the site alterations, the proposed site alterations such as the driveway, parking area, walkway, and generator location all appear to be appropriate. Therefore, staff recommends approval of the application with conditions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Anything you'd like to add, sir?
No, sir. I'm
Nothing.
Jeff Beerwood, not John Gore.
Okay.
But we're happy to comply with the recommendations and have no further comments.
Okay. Anything you want to add? Nope. All right, if y'all grab a seat for me, please. Any citizens here to speak on this item? No? Okay. Let's go to the commission, please. Kathy?
I move to approve with the 10 recommended staff conditions.
Second.
Okay. Bob, Kathy. All right, any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I think my comments would tend toward the windows and where the water course is that staff brought up, but also the window, the head height of the window seems a little high to me, a little wide, like it's got a very wide head height. And I wonder if that could come back to staff also in order to approve that portion of it.
Thinking you're talking about the amount of material above the window,
above the window.
the amount of siding above it. Okay.
That's correct.
Okay.
And I think also that the window should have a double hung appearance. That's part of our guidelines as well.
Okay. Now, the recommendation that staff had put in there. Hold on one second. My head's bleeding here. The new window must be compatible. Separation between the window and the water course, but I think Brian has brought up maybe the head height of the windows looking a little low because there's so much siding above it. Is that a correct?
That's correct.
Okay. All right, Madeline, did you have something?
Yes, I just wanted to know if the head height also applied to the front door or just the windows? And what his preferences?
Do you have a comment on that,
Yeah,
Brian?
well, on the door, I can't really tell a lot about it because you've got the little awning that comes out over the door.
Right.
So it's really difficult to make a comment about it.
Yeah, it looks. I mean, I don't think it's uncommon for windows and doors to have uncommon head heights, especially commercial buildings. But the windows, it's got a lot of, like Brian said, a lot of forehead. And then our guidelines do talk about double hung in appearance, and depending on what windows these are, if they're storefront or something, they can put in a wider kind of a mull bar there or buy a double hung.
Yeah, I guess it depends on the intent. And this being so forward to the church and to the McMahon House, which is historic, I just think some consideration needs to be really thought about how this relates to the historic structures that are on the property.
Okay.
More so than storefront windows. You really wouldn't see that so much, I don't think, in rural-type buildings.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, I mean, I don't know if there's special requirements for the type of building it is in terms of like tornadoes, hurricanes, that kind of stuff that they can use. I don't know the answer to that.
Mr. Chair, there's also a comment that staff made that it references placement and casement and trim around windows seen typically on historic civic buildings. So civic buildings are much taller in height and scale, so I think we have to look at it from the scale of this building with the surrounding buildings near it. That would maybe set a standard or a guideline, but it feels out of balance when you really look a little bit deeper with it regarding the garage doors, but I understand why those are tall, because it's EMS and it's their equipment. Maybe we can ask staff to, take another look or get some more information as to how do they meet this historic civic window.
Yeah, and I think part of your comment too, staff, was just trim around the windows. Like usually there's a casing of some sort and an apron or all of the above. And right now it just looks like siding. Yeah, so I think that'll help. I think there was another comment about the spacing of siding, the reveal, should I say, which looks big right now.
And Mr. Chair, well, I think the casement will help a lot.
Yeah.
And staff looking at the style of the window. I would like to see that water table not just leave space. I may need to do an amendment between the window, but it come down to more of a traditional foundation that you might see in such a building.
And Mr. Chair, my concern is we're talking about a lot of DRC issues here.
Yeah.
And I'd really like to see in what we vote on that we've discussed it and we're okay with what we're voting on and what we see in the drawings.
Yeah.
And I would like to move that we defer this to the next voting meeting of the Historic Zoning Commission.
Okay.
And then invite the applicant back to DRC.
And that date certain is May the 11th, 10, 987? Who knows when the next meeting is? The 11th. Oh, I knew it. Okay, so there's a motion to defer this to the May 11th voting meeting.
I'll second that.
Okay. Brian and Madeline. Okay, any discussion on the deferral?
Well, I personally think I would be comfortable with the changes that staff has said and that water table coming down with going ahead and approving it.
Okay.
I feel like they have been so responsive to so many of the suggestions.
Okay, anybody else?
I
Holly?
think it looks pretty good the way it is as well. And so I would be willing to let staff do what they're doing with the windows and go ahead and approve it.
Okay. Anybody else on the deferral? Yeah, I think there's enough moving parts here. Like, I'm not convinced all the water tables should come down. Like the garage bay, I'm like, well, there may be some necessity there, like something that you can run into. There's bollards and things. I mean, but I'd like to see the trim. I'd like to see the renderings reflect the siding. I'd like to see like a real front door spec, not just this Revit model picture. Like, what's the door look like? What's the window really look like? An actual, like, who's making it? What is it? I think those are valid things that we ask for, whether it's City Hall or a house on Lewisburg Pike. Those are things we ask for. But I'd like to see, yes, we saw that, but it doesn't say that it's double hung in appearance. How are we getting there? How are we meeting the guidelines? So there's enough of those outstanding items that I feel like a deferral might be a good thing. But any other comments on the deferral? And then we're going to vote on the
Well,
deferral.
I'd
Angela?
have to agree with you that there's not a lot of detail here to really understand exactly what's happening, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Even the specs, I mean, it doesn't show the rendering with the casing and the water table lowered and how all that interacts with one another.
Got light fixtures. We got windows. We have no sample of the brick. We kind of have some arrows to a roof, and we're assuming that it's standing seam. There's the brick. Okay. Well,
And what we had originally asked for, they're getting in that direction.
Absolutely.
And I
yeah.
think the
Yes.
details will make all the difference since we've gone back to a simpler looking facade.
Yes.
so we've got this window submittal at the bottom that's aluminum, and then I've also got this fiberglass Pella Impervia window, which is we can talk about that at DRC, but I'm confused at what's going where because it's not really annotated what's going where aside from kind of color matching. So, all right, if there's no other comments on the deferral, let's vote on the deferral. All those in favor of deferring to the May 11th voting meeting, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay, so this item will be deferred to the next meeting, and we would encourage the applicant to come to DRC again so we could talk more openly about kind of all the detail expectations there. And okay, thank y'all. Item number 9, consideration of alterations to a previously approved building, parking structure at 230 Franklin Road, the factory. Mr. Talley, and let's hear from Emily first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Property located at 230 Franklin Road is home to the factory at Franklin and is located in the Franklin Road Local Historic District. The proposals to construct a new parking structure was approved by the Historic Zoning Commission in June of last year. Minor alterations have been approved following the initial approval of this building, and this proposal is for alterations to the south and east elevations. On the south elevation, let's just scroll to it. Okay. On the south elevation that will face Building 5, the building openings will be infilled with brick, but will still have the detailing of the window openings. The recess of the infill detailing has not been provided, but should articulate the areas where it was previously open. The option to have the metal canopies that would connect the previously approved parking garage to Building 5 are also proposed to be removed from the plan. On the east elevation that will face the carousel building, a portion of the building that will house the elevator is proposed to decrease its height from 43 feet 8 inches to 41 feet 10 inches. The elevator overrun will remain the same at 47 feet in height. The added height may help to diminish the elevator overrun from elsewhere on the site, even though the height exceeded the recommended maximum height of 42 feet 11 inches. Staff recommends approval of the application except for the decrease in height of the portion of the building on the east/south elevations with conditions. Thank you.
Emily, will you point at the area in question here just for everybody's clarity here?
Yes, so this is the area that is being decreased on both elevations, so it's on both sides of the building. So it's just dropping down in height just a little bit, but this elevator overrun
Remains
is
unchanged.
unchanged.
Okay, and then on the other side, it's just the section there that's been made solid. It's kind of the part that's adjacent to Mojo's.
Yes.
Is that true? Okay. Okay, just making sure everybody understands what, and there was a canopy that connected and the canopies came out, so that's the third thing, right? These little connector
Yes.
canopies, there's a couple. Okay, all right, Mr. Talley.
Yeah, just add a little bit of context on the three of them. The canopies, I think all agreed and got approved last time to move forward without canopies, so that's just some drawing cleanup since we're coming here anyways. The brick infill is opposite the theater, Building 5 only. That's for fire ratings. The parapet drop is just found opportunity. Our architect, in working with the manufacturers for the parking garage, found an opportunity to decrease the height, and that's always been an item of conversation, and so they offered that as a suggestion. We don't have to do that if you guys don't want to, but it's available to us. That's it. Thank you.
Okay. And staff was not recommending approval of reducing that height because it helps cover
It
the
helps screen it.
elevator screen. Okay, understood. All right, anyone here from the community that just wants to talk about this one? Nope, okay. All right, let's go to the commission, please.
Mr. Chair, I moved to approve the application except for the decrease in height of the portion of the building on the east-south elevations with staff conditions.
Okay.
I would second that.
Okay, Brian, you want to start discussion there, and I'm going to write this up.
Yes, so I agree with staff on that. I think anything that helps to give a screen for that overrun, I think that helps. I'm wondering about, so the reason why the infill of the window portion look, it's because of fire rating, is that what I understand?
That's what I understood. And yes, the applicant has said as much, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
My question, back to the screening, that also helps hide headlights from vehicles moving through there at night. I know we were critical about giving that coverage. Does the drawings indicate how much of a drop they would do? Is it minimal?
I think there were some lines there.
Pardon?
1 foot 10 inches.
Okay, 1 foot 10. Okay.
And I guess the other question is, would we still have the same amount of floor-wise from where the cars roll in? We have the same amount of coverage with that reduction? Or does it reduce the?
Mr. Talley, come back up here and give us some clarity.
Everything else stays the same, it's just reducing that wall, exterior wall.
So it's the brick exterior wall, okay.
Yeah, it's basically the parapet at the perimeter.
I'd like,
Thank you.
the purpose in dropping that down to
I think it was just a manufacturing opportunity which saves some material and money, and it's kind of a judgment call because I think we are all, always hounding on people to be shorter. But there's times when it's like, maybe we're trying to cover something that we don't want to see. So that's why we're discussing it, I think. Yeah, so the motion on the floor is approval with staff conditions, which includes the exception of the parapet reductions. Is that, I have that right? Okay. Any other discussion on that? Okay. Let's vote then. Motion on the floor, approval with staff conditions that includes the exception of the parapet reductions. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. Thank you, Mr. Talley. This is the last one? Okay, item number 10, consideration of demolition at 234 and 242 Fifth Avenue North. Greg Gamble. I see Greg, there he is, and his comrades coming with him. Let's hear from Emily first, and then we'll hear from you all.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, the properties at 234 and 242 Fifth Avenue North are located within the downtown Franklin National Register Historic District. The National Register describes both buildings to be non-contributing to the Historic District. It is noted that 242 Fifth Avenue North was constructed circa 1940 and 234 Fifth Avenue North was constructed 1980. However, a historic building survey from the 1972 National Register of Historic Places listing shows both buildings with accessory structures on their sites. The request to demolish the buildings and a preliminary plan for the building to be constructed on the lots received feedback at the March Design Review Committee meeting. Demolition is highly discouraged unless there are extraordinary circumstances so as to maintain the integrity and sense of place associated with Franklin's historic districts. Demolition may only be approved if the Historic Zoning Commission deems one of the more of the following conditions met. If a building has lost its architectural and historical integrity and its removal will not adversely affect the district's historic character. If the denial of the demolition will result in an unreasonable economic hardship on the applicant as determined by the Historic Zoning Commission. And if the structural instability or deterioration of a property is demonstrated through a report by a structural engineer or architect with demonstrated experience working with historic structures. Within the application, there is a report from a local architect with experience working with historic structures in Franklin. The report highlights that both of the buildings have been extensively modified over the years and that it would be hard to determine to unwind the additions to reveal the original unique architecture. Further, there have been so many modifications to the original architecture that does not support the original design and construction period, which they have subsequently lost their integrity and authenticity and cohesiveness. While not all of the financial information was included within the application, the loss of historic integrity has been provided within the application. The existing buildings have been extensively modified since the photos included in the packet from 1948 and 1975 and do not appear to resemble the buildings seen in historic photos. Therefore, the historic structures do not appear to retain their integrity. While the demolition request is not accompanied by a final redevelopment plan, future improvements would be subject to a separate review by the Historic Zoning Commission. Therefore, staff recommends approval of the demolition of the principal buildings and their accessory structures with conditions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Gamble, welcome.
Yep, happy to answer any questions that you may have. I'm here with Mike Hathaway as well, as a part of our team. We did not include a photograph of the accessory structure in the submittal package. I have one for available if you'd like for me to pass it around. We believe it was also built in the 80s as well. It's a metal-clad building on cinder blocks.
Okay, thank you. If you'll grab a seat.
Thank you.
Let's Any community members want to speak to this item? Okay, seeing none. Let's go to the commission.
I'd like to make a motion to approve with staff conditions.
Okay,
Second.
Madeline, Angela. Okay, any discussion?
Yeah, I would like to make a comment that the board, since I've been on the board, I can only think of a handful of structures that the board has approved for demolition. And I think it's a very high bar, and it has to be a high bar of what we do. And when I weigh the three criteria of what's in our guidelines, I can check yes to every one of these. And, you know, in my time in Franklin, which is almost 30 years now, I mean, I've seen those buildings underwater probably at least 3 times. So it's going to happen again.
Yeah.
And then now they've been abandoned, it almost seems, it seems since 2010. So, so that's not really our consideration, but our consideration does have to do with those criteria, and it meets them. And as much as I hate to vote for demolition, sometimes it's appropriate.
Thank you. Anybody else? Mary?
If something great was going to happen, it's had a long time to happen, and it hasn't. But I would say that I do agree with the demolition. I'm not basing it on the building that was presented, so I just want to be clear on that.
Understood. Yeah, I think the understanding is that no matter what happens, they have to get a COA for anything that goes back, so, which is to be expected. Yep. Any other comments on the motion maker or the second?
I was just going to say that I don't think anybody on the board takes demolition lightly, and, but in this circumstance, it makes sense.
Okay.
Agree.
Angela?
That's what I
Agree.
wanted to say.
Okay. All right. Without any more comments, let's take a vote. We have a motion for approval with staff conditions for the demolition of 234 and 242 Fifth Avenue North. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. Thank you. All right, on to other business. Staff has some announcements for us, please.
I do. So I have, let's see. That the April DRC meeting is next Monday here at Eastern Flank Event Facility. It'll start at 4 o'clock. Second announcement is that we'll be holding a special called DRC meeting to discuss the themes, goals, and recommendations with the update to the preservation plan on Tuesday, April 28th at 11 o'clock here at the Eastern Flank Event Facility. And we are going to be sending out a new poll to you all for our training dates. So we're going to be looking at a late summer, early fall training. And then the last announcement is to save the date, we are going to go before the Board of Mayor and Aldermen for the Preservation Proclamation for Preservation Month. And it'll be May 12th at 7 o'clock p.m. at the Williamson County Administrative Complex on West Main Street. And don't worry, we'll be sending out an email to everyone with this information, and we hope that everyone who wants to come can. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other announcements from our commission? No? Okay.
Emily, could you state the date of that special DRC preservation plan update meeting?
Absolutely. It is
April 28th, 11 a.m.
April 28th at 11 a.m. Yes, ma'am.
Believe it or not, I write everything down.
And I would like to just say that the historical, Williamson County Historical Society is putting on events for the 250th, and there'll be 3 that are coming up for April, May, and June. And this Friday at 2 o'clock at the Archives, Williamson County Archives, will have a talk on the Patriot Project, which is about the identification and cleaning of Revolutionary War soldiers' tombstones where they've been identified. So we'd like to invite everyone.
Tell us again when that is.
That's on
Friday.
April the 17th, Friday, from 2 to 3 at the Williamson County
archive.
Archives.
Yeah, wonderful. And there's a whole series, so tune in. Be good. All right, anything else? All right, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Thank you, Mary. Madeline. I call them the M&Ms. All right. All those in favor of adjournment, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.